thank you all for coming, and warm welcome for it.
All right, well, thanks for coming. I guess a little bit about like my background and how I came to make these devices. So it was very much a problem I had witnessed. My background's in the graphic arts, but I found myself at a music software company, as I was also a big music enthusiast, live music. And while there, we would have these synthesizer jams where we would take like a half day off, and people would drag their synths in, and we would patch them all together and try to get everything to play together in unison. And there was always one or two sad people at the end of the chain that like the cable couldn't make it to them, or they didn't have sync on their devices, or whatever the problem was. And so they would be, drifting out of sync with everything else, and not maybe as engaged with the jam. So this was kind of in the back of my head. And then fast forward a couple of years, and Ableton had come out with Link, and originally it was just for iOS music apps. It was a way to get my phone and your phone to jam together over a Wi-Fi network. So I could have a drum machine, you could have a bass line, synthesizer, and we could hit play, and everything would align in tempo, but also musically on the downbeat, as you will. And they then brought that out for Linux, Mac, and Windows. So DJ software started to adopt it, and I saw an opportunity to make a physical hardware box that used Ableton Link to connect these software worlds to the hardware worlds in a new way that wasn't possible before. So just a little, if you're unfamiliar with Ableton Link is basically like a virtual timeline. If you've ever used a digital audio workstation, when you hit play, you see this timeline needle kind of go across, and that shows you where it is in position. So Link gives you that information, and you can, through their API, their programming interface, you can query this timeline and find out where you are musically, and then how to then you can use that information to time align with other things on the same Link network, or the Link session. So my friend and I thought it would be a fun little project just to do on the side. We took a Raspberry Pi computer and a little breadboard with an LED and an output jack and a button, and we would just show this little project where you'd hit the button, the Link would, or the LED would start blinking, and the output was doing the same signal that the LED was doing. And we were just controlling little drum machines like Korg Volcas and things that we had around. And people thought this was pretty cool, and it didn't exist, so I thought I'd make a couple of them. And I made like 30 of them and started to sell them. I went to KnobCon and announced to the world that I had these for sale. Later that year, SchneidersLaden reached out and said, "Hey, we want to buy some." And that's when I said, "Oh, okay, I guess this is really a product." So from that point, I started making more. And after about 3 years, about when the pandemic happened, parts started to get harder to make or acquire, and so I had to redesign it. And so last year, I came out with Junior, which is the Missing Link Junior, which is the replacement for the original Missing Link desktop. And it's on a new platform away from the Raspberry Pi, and it's I'm really proud of how that one came out. Around the same time, I also developed the ML2, which is this little gold Eurorack 2 HP module here. They do the same thing. They're Link devices that generate clock based on that timeline, so they're always aware of where they are, and you can actually see their loop on the timeline as it's going back and forth there, or these lights go down, and so that's showing you where its loop is. So if I hit play, I'll do it early, it's going to count down and start on the next loop, and when I hit stop, it's going to stop at the end of its loop. And so as long as you're starting and stopping on a downbeat like that, you're always musically starting and stopping, or in in a meaningful way. Just like if you've ever used Ableton Live, when you hit play on a clip, it also does the same thing. It quantizes its start and stop. So this another kind of complexity with the parts shortages was a few manufacturers also closed their doors. So ML2 was being built by a US based company that closed, and a friend of mine decided that we can build these in-house, and so we've invested in some equipment and now our own manufacturer. And in that process, we redesigned ML2 to make ML2M for MIDI, and we added a neat new feature. Which so on ML2 you have two outputs. Normally they're CV clocks. So one is usually sending you a clocking signal to your sequencer, and the other one is some kind of reset signal or a run signal that will tell the sequencer when to start and stop, or reset itself. With ML2M, that output B can be shifted into a MIDI mode, and so the output changes color and becomes a solid orange color. And now that's actually a TRS MIDI jack, so you can plug that into any MIDI device like a Digitac or an 808, anything that has MIDI input. And then output A is actually a TRS jack that has, with a splitter, you can still get at those A and B CV clock signals. So you can still have three outputs, you just have to have a little splitter to get to that one. Let's see, is there anything else I want to talk about? Oh yes, so because these are fairly minimal interfaces, I wanted to make, and they're connected to a network. There's a web server on each of them, so that's how you get at the more deep settings. So there we go. So this is, which one is this? Yes, this is ML2M we're looking at right here. So we have output A and output B. So those correspond to the A and B jacks here, and I can change the kind of the clock type. I could have the clock always running. Something like a Pamela's new workout wants a clock that's constantly going, and then you have a second signal that goes high to tell it to start playing and then goes low to tell it to stop. That's how DynSync works as well. Then you can adjust the pulses per quarter note for your clock. So normally most sequencers seem to be 4 pulses per quarter note. So that means you have 16th notes. Each quarter note is divided into 4. Sometimes you need 2, sometimes you need 24, which is a whole bunch put together. High resolution clock. And then, so output A and B can both be clock signals, or they can be reset signals that happen every loop, or just once when you hit play, or once when you hit stop. So it's very flexible to set up to work with many different sequencers. I've now been selling various versions of the Missing Link for about 5 years, so I've talked to many customers, and everyone has an interesting idea, and so a lot of the cool features are actually because of customer feedback. Beyond the interface here, you also have a way to update your firmware. This is not connected to the server, so it won't be able to find it, but you would see it. If there was an update, it would tell you here, and you hit the button and it would download and install the update. And then you have the Wi-Fi settings. Oops, this is a prototype, so things are not always working well. But here it'll show you what your Wi-Fi that's stored, that the various connections you have for your studio, your home networks will show up at the top, and then down below it would show you the available networks here. But this is a buggy. Here, this one should work because it's in theory. There you go. So on this one, I have two networks stored. I can prioritize which one it wants to connect to first. The ones at the top of the list, it will then go down the list, but you can sort them how you like. And then down below, if you wanted to connect to a different network, you select it, enter the password, and then it reboots and we'll try to connect. So yeah, there's a nice web interface to get at the deeper settings. But for the most part, once you set it up, there's a play button. You hit that. The plus and minus buttons will shift through the tempos, or you can do a tap tempo. Yeah, so I think that is it. I'd love to open up to any questions if anyone has a question. Or not. Or you get straight to the jamming.
Would it be possible to connect the configuration page with an external controller?
How do you mean?
This configuration page to connect with an external hardware controller.
Okay, so to be able to control these settings, it is possible. It's not currently, but that's an interesting idea. So what kind of things would you be interested in controlling?
Just, for example, make some breaks and things up. I don't know.
No, it's an interesting idea. I've definitely thought about that. There's Bluetooth on here as well that I don't utilize, but you could do Bluetooth MIDI, or we could maybe like open sound control could be implemented as well. So there's some possibilities. Cool.
I think we can go straight to the jam and
Yeah.
it's
So-
a straightforward device and you play it really good.
So yeah, we have a system up here that so we have one ML2 up here, and then the Digitac down there. Those are both being synchronized by my devices. There's one of these juniors down there, and then in the back we have a couple of ML2s that are synchronizing the carousel and the system in the back. And so if anybody changes tempo on any of them, you'll notice that everything should follow together, and that should be interesting.
So there's no master clock. Everyone can be the master tempo giver.
Yes, everyone. It's communal.
Okay.
I like to say it's a communal clock. Yeah, I guess I didn't really demonstrate. So I'll hit play on this one. So now we're hearing what this is doing. Maybe turn this up a little bit. So then, if you play up here, it's gonna wait and we'll start. And then I can stop this one, but that keeps going, which is unusual for usually when you have a clock, it's controlling everything. So when you hit stop on one thing, the whole thing stops. But now we can move these in and out separately and really kind of layer in all your various devices. If I change it's going well. You can see it adjusting the change that's up there. So over the Wi-Fi, they're sharing their timeline information and staying aligned. So they're always in sync with each other. It's kind of magical. I like give props to the people at Ableton that came up with this. But yeah, so go make some sounds.
That's cool. All right, thank you.